Just when you thought they were going to get sauce, not sauced, no, Sean, but sauce, they didn't. They go Derek Stingley. It's the Houston Texans kicking off our AFC South draft recap here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom. So Stingley up, lengthy, hustle, physical corner, kind of annoying, honestly, as a corner, which is good for the cornerback position. I just thought it would be sauce. I know some friends of mine who had some prop bets because everyone's a degenerate now, and they were like, oh my god, it's not sauce. I'm like, okay, it's the draft. There were 17 trades in this draft, 8 before the draft and 9 during the first round. So might want to calm down. You're not going to get rich beating Vegas there, Bloom. That's just my opinion. I'll get off my soapbox and I'll get on the Kenyon Green bandwagon because he's mean, nasty, physical guard from Texas A&M. They get him at 15. Then to the second round, Jalen Petrie, Baylor safety goes. And then here comes John Mechie, Alabama wide receiver in the second round. Now, like Jameson Williams, he's coming back from a knee injury. His was the SEC championship and not the national championship for Mechie, so we'll watch his progress there. Then they go Christian Harris, linebacker from Alabama, back-to-back on the Crimson Tide in a third. Dameon Pierce, running back Florida. I think I made fun of it already, but he's the back that everyone at the Senior Bowl, even the people that were there for their brands to take selfies and not actually work or take notes or even watch practice, Pierce was the guy that everybody noticed because he was just that good. So you look at this backfield, you go, there's really not much in front of him. Dameon Pierce could be very fantasy relevant, very fast. So put a pin in that name. Thomas Booker, Stanford defensive tackle in the 5th, along with Tegan Quateriano, Oregon State tight end, and Shrine Bowl Bloom. And I showed up. My daughter's at Oregon State. Happy birthday, Katerina, by the way. She's 19 today. So it's her first birthday where I'm not with her. You know what I mean? Because she's in college. But she's at Oregon State. So I immediately show up in Vegas and I immediately see the Oregon State helmet. I was like, okay, I don't want to just love this guy because he's going to Oregon State. And Corvallis is really awesome. I love Corvallis. It's like a small town and, it's an hour from the ocean. But anyway, he did a great job. I can't pronounce his last name, but he did a fantastic job. Quateriano down at the Shrine Bowl. So put a pin in him as well. And then Austin DeCulis, LSU offensive tackle, to round things out in the 6th round.
Yeah, the Texans, I mean, we can't necessarily knock them for the draft they put together, but at the same time, the roster is so empty that it's going to be a long time. That being said, with Stingley, hey, Cease, your friends that lost money because they said Sauce would go 3rd, all of the intel going into the draft was Stingley, and it reached a fever pitch by Wednesday, Thursday, even in the mock drafts. People in the know always watch those. We don't have Rich Goslin anymore. Man, that was the best. If you know, you know. But that's how you learn. And it was out there. And Stingley, again, starting as a true freshman for the LSU defense, first one, I think, 34 years. And all he did was play as a consensus All-American, play up to that level as a true freshman at LSU. Injuries kept him from reaching that level in 2020 and 2021. But they trade down. They could have gotten, and some might have said Jordan Davis, Kyle Hamilton. That's where the drop-off is in this class, right? 14 players. Well, they trade out of that, go from 13 to 15. They pick up some extra picks later on, and they get Kenyon Green, a mauler, road grader, just a classic road grader, solid pick. Team showing what they care about, just right down the road from Texas A&M. Staying in Texas, they get Petrie. So this is local draft, right? Like you can drive a few hours from Houston, and we could have seen any of these guys play in college. Petrie, slot corner, safety, high floor player, coverage safety, safety who can do everything you ask a safety to do. They move up for John Mechie. I mean, Mechie's a solid player coming off an ACL tear, but not exactly a difference maker. A very competent, solid slot receiver. Is that a guy you move up for into the mid-second from 68 to 44, coming off an ACL tear? Okay. Harris, another one they move up for. Sticking with Alabama, a 2-down linebacker, I think. Again, worth moving up for. You look at some of the other linebackers, off-ball linebackers available or second day. They get Pierce. He's going to compete with Marlon Mack. Okay, Pierce is, and I'll say this, Cecil, you want to do a little mini rant here? Don't tell me, he couldn't beat out LaMichael Pirine, or he couldn't beat out. Look, first of all, college coaches have their reasons for the rotations they have. They have their reasons for their approaches. They have their reasons for the way they use players. Okay? There's plenty of examples of players who couldn't beat out whoever that didn't do much in the pros.
Terrell Davis couldn't beat out whoever because they wanted to play him at fullback because his coaches didn't like him. Willie Parker couldn't beat out whoever because of the same thing. Like sometimes the reason coaches don't play you is bogus.
Right. So I'm not saying that's what happened with Pierce, but I see some knocks on Pierce in that form, and I just think that's not valid.
That's lazy. That is so lazy.
Yeah. So look, Pierce is probably the best running back they have on the roster, depending on Marlon Mack's ability to get all the way back from that Achilles. And will he take over the backfield? I don't know, but he runs with urgency. He runs the ball the way you run the ball. He runs the ball like every carry is the defining carry of his career. So you like that. Some versatility, not a true all-round back. And, later on the third day, they get a rotational defensive end in Booker, snap eater. Cudoriano is more of a blocker at this point, probably, but he's got that basketball background. He's got that big NFL frame. I still like Brevin Jordan and what he did for that team last year, but you can imagine the two of those guys contrasting looks in a two tight end set. Deculus, a right tackle, starting right tackle for LSU. So I like that. Not that athletic. That's why he falls so far. And you want to get excited about the Texans. There's a few pieces here, but they're still a long way away from competing.
Yeah, long way to go. And when you look at their UDFAs, well, Bloom, they're not overly impressive. Interesting for Johnny Johnson from Oregon. A few years ago, because it's been a minute, he led the team in receiving, definitely got juice after the catch, and then he had a foot injury last year. So we'll see, Johnny Johnson, practice squad guy, maybe he doesn't do anything, but that's the lone name I'll find from this group of UDFAs. How about you?
Yeah, Johnny Johnson, but again, an underwhelming slot receiver type. Colby Harvell Peel, Oklahoma State Cowboys baby. I just brought him up so I could say Oklahoma State Cowboys baby for Doug Drennan, who's an amazing person and one of the reasons you're even listening to us speak right now.
That's right. The Indianapolis Colts, they are up next, and they start things off, and everyone wanted a wide receiver because you certainly don't want to pay people. The NFL never wants to pay you. Like, they'll pay you. It's usually begrudgingly, and they never want to. So why were there a million wide receivers taken in the first 32 picks? Because nobody wants to pay wide receivers. So you're trying to find guys, and Alec Pierce. Hell, we talked about Desmond Ridder in the last show, Bloom. Alec Pierce's favorite target. I mean, the guy's big, he's fast, he wins 50-50 balls, led the FBS players in reception yards and go routes since 2019. So there you go. Put him on a go route. Alec Pierce there for the Indianapolis Colts. Good. I like it. Sounds good to me. Let's talk about Jelani Woods, their third-round pick, Virginia. What is he, 6'7"? Yeah. Huge prospect. Doesn't know what he's doing yet. Okay. But if you talk about size, ability to attack all three levels of the defense, and maybe a traditional Y when he does get everything figured out, Jelani Woods, an interesting and exciting tight end. Third round is about where he was going to go anyway. Bernard Raymond, Central Michigan, offensive tackle, Austrian, not Australian, good day, mate, but Austria. What is that accent? Austria. Put another shrimp on the barbie. No, but Bernard Raymond had some medical stuff. That's why he slid. He was in the conversation of mingling around the first round, but there was some medical stuff. Austrian kid, actually, and I believe, maybe I'm incorrect, Bloom, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Austria is like Israel, where you have to go serve in the military for a little bit, like every citizen does. So Raymond did serve in the Austrian military for 6 months or whatever it was. And then, now finds his way to the National Football League. 3rd round pick, Nick Cross, Maryland safety. 5th round, Eric Johnson, Missouri State defensive tackle. 6th round, Andrew Ogletree, Youngstown State tight end. Curtis Brooks, Cincinnati defensive tackle in the 6th. And Rodney Thomas rounds things out, safety from Yale in the 7th round here for the Colts.
The Colts, no first-round pick. Again, the Carson Wentz trade. They do okay here, and you can see the plan. Alec Pierce goes along with Michael Pittman with some size, can win contested catches, can get downfield. Not someone who's going to uncover and separate underneath. Okay, so I don't know if that matches Matt Ryan. This team's going to try to compete. I think they like what they got there. Another Cincinnati guy. You have Woods. Woods is really very similar to Mo Alley Cox, and a massive human being, very athletic, hasn't played up to that athleticism as a receiver, certainly can be a blocker and can be coached up. So I think that this could be a pick, certainly in your tight end premium leagues. You're looking at him as a long-term project that can have some upside in this offense. Raymond actually started playing football in Austria. They have American football in Austria. Started playing when he was 14. See the comparison. I think it was a Lance Zierlein comparison. I'm going to give you a blast from the past here. Sebastian Vollmer.
Texas versus Nation, right?
Yeah, and I think maybe the Shrine Game, Draft Guys TV alum.
He was, yeah, Shrine Game.
German.
Yep, you're right.
And was drafted very high. Was one of those players drafted a lot higher than expected. But Ryman, a lot of people had him as the next left tackle off the board after Trevor Penning. And like you said, potentially a first-round pick. I think that there's a lot there. Another tight end to tackle. They wondering what are they going to do to replace Anthony Costanzo long-term. They might have gotten him in the 3rd round. Cross, they move up. They give up their 2023 3rd to get Cross, but he can cover tight ends. He is another classic sheriff in the middle of the field, reminding you what happens when you come into his zone. Then you get into the 3rd day, another rotational guy, snap eater, defensive end, and Johnson. Ogletree's interesting. I mentioned Youngstown State. Penguins, baby, and Pittsburgh Penguins. Hopefully they'll go into Madison Square Garden. I'm dating this show and close out the Rangers. That's been fun. Louis Domingue, everybody. King Louis. But an upside receiving tight end. Pure upside, but a long way to go. This team likes their tight ends. Brooks, an undersized, very productive defensive tackle. Another Cincinnati pick. And then they get Thomas, who is that linebacker safety tweener. If that sounds familiar, from Yale. If that sounds familiar, that was the profile of Foye Oluokun when he went in the 6th round to the Falcons. Now, Oluokun came into the league around like 230. Thomas comes in at like 200. But my point is, you see an example of a player that played this role in this program, incredibly athletic. Thomas is too. So this is the kind of 3rd day pick I like. You may be able to make something out of this player. We'll see what the Colts can do. These are Colts type picks, Chris Ballard picks, smart picks, not necessarily picks that are going to have you competing with the top of the AFC, but you're not going to be falling to the bottom either.
How about the undrafted free agents? And very rarely I will talk about a Nebraska Cornhusker, unless he's from Colorado, JoJo Doman.
Yeah.
And athletic, sideline to sideline, special teams guy, most likely really should have been drafted, honestly. But the Colts could have gotten something here. Maybe it is just a special teams player, but the guy could play for a decade.
Yeah.
Based on his ability and his athletic profile. So, Bloom, let's talk about Colts UDFAs.
Yeah, that's the guy, Doman. A lot of people thought he would be drafted. A good coverage linebacker. That's fine. You can make your money as a coverage linebacker, a big nickel. I think that, like you said, he can contribute on special teams. So this one stood out. I think this was one of the names when the draft is over. There's always a handful of names that most folks have been keeping up with the draft are really eager to find out where do they land. Doman was one of those guys. The Colts got a good one.
Got a good one there. And we move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we go, okay, a little zig when they zag, or jag when they, I don't know. There's some sort of rhyme in there, but listen, they go not with Aiden Hutchinson, not with Kayvon Thibodeau. And again, we have to go on the current information. Things were trending for Javon Walker to be the guy. So was it Surprising? No, not necessarily. Now, was it surprising if you didn't pay attention to the draft from February? Yeah, sure. Because in February, it was Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson. Well, things changed, and, well, they got themselves Travon Walker, their number 1 overall pick. Edge, huge, and definitely just engulfs you as a tackler. It hurts to even think about getting tackled by Travon Walker. So number 1 overall, hustles after the play. If the play goes away from him, you like to see that as well. So there you go. Good job, Jacksonville. There was a disagreement. Let me know what you heard, Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
A disagreement between Shad Khan and Trent Baalke as to, is it going to be Aiden Hutchinson, who I believe Khan wanted, or Walker, who Baalke wanted. And I'm not going to hold that against Walker.
No.
But Trent Baalke didn't have the greatest reputation out there.
No.
Let's just say that. So let's move on from that and go Devin Lloyd, Utah. All right. You get your linebacker that goes sideline to sideline and loves to hit. Lloyd is there. Luke Fortner, Kentucky center in the 3rd round. Chad Muma. You already have Andrew Wingard, his teammate at Wyoming. Cowboys, baby. And I talked to Logan Wilson, who's of course with the Bengals, but I talked to Logan at Muma's pro day. I hand timed his 3-cone drill, and it was under 7 seconds. The dude's a freak. Chad Muma is an absolute freak linebacker, and 3rd round pick sounds about right. Snoop Connor, running back, Ole Miss. We got a lot to talk about with him there, Bloom, as well. 5th round, 6th round, Gregory Jr., Wichita Baptist? How do you pronounce that?
Ouachita, yeah.
Ouachita Baptist, cornerback there. And Monteric Brown from Arkansas, corner in the 7th round. So Jacksonville was an interesting draft, and some good players maybe picked at interesting times.
Yeah. Travon Walker could work out. He's a little bit more of a projection than a typical defensive player taken number 1 overall. Probably still would have been a top 10 pick in any scenario. But again, Lions fans, you have Trent Baalke to thank you. And remember, this is all Urban Meyer. By the way, did you see that Josh Lambo is suing Urban Meyer? Or suing the Jags, I'm sorry. You can't sue Urban Meyer. He's not part of the Jags anymore. For hostile work environment. So the ghosts of Urban Meyer still there, and that's basically Trent Baalke, right? He was brought in because he works with Urban Meyer, and he's still there. Well, you can get Travon Walker. There's a lot of upside there, without a doubt. He's projectable, more projectable than Hutchinson, but his game isn't there yet. But you could say, hey, it's Georgia, whose game was there because they were all basically overshadowing each other all the time. They move up 6 picks to get Devin Lloyd, and Devin Lloyd, clearly the best off-ball linebacker prospect in this draft, even though Quay Walker goes ahead of him going into the draft, that is. Devin Lloyd was often mocked as the first off-ball linebacker off the board. He can rush the passer. He can drop into coverage. He's a physical player. This team loves their linebackers. We can skip ahead and talk about Muma, who also a lot of people love. Now, Muma's going to be more of a strong side because they have Foye Oluokun, who they gave a big contract in free agency. So obviously this team is stressing that off-ball linebacker position. I don't know, Cecil, if it's like the olden days where, yeah, if you have your 3 linebackers, you can really go toe-to-toe with any offense, but they've got 3 good ones. With Muma, if he landed someplace else, we would have liked him a lot more for IDP leagues, but you've got your 3 linebackers there. I don't know how you keep 3 off-ball linebackers on the field on passing downs, but maybe with Oluokun's coverage ability, with Lloyd's ability to rush the passer, they find a way to do it. Fortner's a solid pick. You can't really argue with that. You know, you're going to get your long-term starting center there. So that's a fine use of that pick. Connor, and what's interesting about Connor, I think, sorry, football guy staffer, sorry, Kansabadian, is a big Snoop Connor guy. And the thing you have to like about Connor is going into OTAs, is Travis Etienne ready? I know that James Robinson's not ready. So Snoop Connor, new coaching staff, the team obviously likes him, taking him in the 5th round. I think they even moved up a little bit to get him. So yeah, this is a player that has a chance for fantasy. We have to pay attention to what he's doing. Any kind of item that we get out of training camp, any kind of item they get out of OTAs with the coaches, again, in the new regime, he has a chance to endear himself to this regime right away and get some important playing time. They gave up 2 6-round picks to get him. So this is a player that they're showing you they like, and there's opportunity for him. Junior, hey, this is your small school cornerback. He's got the measurables, and he went to the Senior Bowl. And he looked fine. Small school player goes to the Senior Bowl, fits in, has the measurables. So the deeper we get into this draft, the more we like the picks. Now we have some nice things to say. Brown, another Arkansas guy, out zone corner type. So if you got these guys like Josh Allen and Travon Walker generating some pressure, then that downhill style corner might be able to work here. It's very similar to Houston. Look, the difference between Houston and Jacksonville, of course, being the quarterback. So the story is still going to be about Doug Peterson, about Trevor Lawrence, about getting this offense going, even though this was a defensive draft for this team.
It was a defensive draft, and we'll see. Trevor Lawrence, please be okay. Please. And maybe it's just him, and I'm not going to blame it all on Urban Meyer, but outside of the last game of the year, Trevor Lawrence did not look good.
No.
And usually rookies, like, who's a rookie? Yeah, rookies flash. There'll be even Justin Fields flashed. Okay. Lawrence didn't really. Final game was good. But it was like, man, I wish he would have gone without playing 16 games and not looking good. We'll see. We'll see what happens this year. We'll see what happens with these UDFAs. There's your transition, Bloom. UDFAs for Jacksonville Jaguars. Jarrett Prince, I thought, would get drafted.
Yeah.
Honestly, super shocked that he didn't, because you're talking about a move tight end that can attack all three levels of the defense. And I believe there were 10 games. Were they in a row? 10 games where he had a catch of 20 yards or more.
Right.
In a row. I think it was in a row. If it wasn't, but either way, 10 games last season, not 10 games in his career, 10 games last season of having at least one catch of 20 yards or more. So we can't block, or let's say blocking should be worked on, right? Never say you can't. What did Henry Ford say? If you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
So Jarrett Prince, hell yeah, UDFA. Could be a nice one.
Yeah, a big play tight end, and this is an offense coaching staff, Doug Peterson coaching staff, that likes the tight end. Remember, they went and got Evan Ingram. They traded for Dan Arnold. So, no, that wasn't Doug Peterson. But my point is, there's room in this offense for a productive tight end. Imagine Kevin Austin out of Notre Dame. A lot of people had him draftable, certainly had a draftable measurables, draftable pedigree coming from Notre Dame. I think they gave him pretty sizable bonus to make sure that they got him on the roster. So absolutely, Kevin Austin was another one of those guys like JoJo Doman. Wherever he landed, we were going to highlight him on the show.
On this show, we get to highlight some of the best draft classes out there. Then we also get to highlight some of the questionable draft classes. Then we get to analyze the Titans. Now, yesterday when my brain is less mushy today, Bloom.
Good.
But when you're talking about AJ Brown, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I should wake up. I'm feeling very awake today. Actually went for a walk at like 6 a.m.
Beautiful.
Around the neighborhood. So there you go. Everyone get up and exercise.
Yeah.
And eat right. And well, draft right. But the AJ Brown trade can't work out anything. He's totally going to be with us forever, says John Robinson. And then he's not. And then they get Treylon Burks. And this is nothing against Burks, who was always going to be a first-round pick. Burks, I think, was a little bit overhyped. People get really excited in the pre-draft process, which is fine. I get it. I understand it. I'm usually right there with everybody. But with Burks, it's like, he's Deebo Samuel. No, he's not. He's not Deebo. And he sure is, shut your mouth, sorry, Joe, is not AJ Brown. So you're trying to replace AJ Brown. Like, we can find the discount version. We can find the next version. We can find a young version. Treylon Burks is going to be Treylon Burks. But do not be surprised when he disappoints, because the kid already has, one, way too much hype coming into the league. Two, way too many expectations. For three, a team that needs him to be AJ Brown. They need him to be Deebo Samuel, and he's just not going to be that. That's not his game. So Treylon Burks, to kick things off. All right, Tennessee, go home. You're drunk. And that was the first round. Roger McCreary, Auburn, corner. And honestly, I think that's a great pick. I felt he could have been a first-round pick. McCreary in the second round, great pick. Nicholas Petit-Frere, offensive tackle of Ohio State. Sorry for mispronouncing everybody's name. Malik Willis, Liberty, quarterback, third round. Ryan Tannehill, I'm not here. That's not my job. Well, he's going to take your job. When does that happen with Malik Willis? We shall find out. Got that rocket arm, got elite scrambling ability. doesn't make pro decisions. So there is a lot to wait for with Malik Willis. Will he be motivated that he wasn't a first round pick, that he wasn't number 2 overall to the Lions, who coached him at the Senior Bowl? He had a fantastic Senior Bowl, but you also know that 1, it's a bad quarterback class, and 2, he is so raw. He's Tyler Huntley. Okay. He's not Lamar. Speaking of not comparisons, Treylon Burks is not Deebo Samuel, and Malik Willis is not Lamar Jackson. If you wanted to say he's Tyler Huntley, fine. But wasn't Huntley undrafted, Bloom?
Yeah.
Okay. And a fine prospect in his own right. So Malik Willis, somebody's quoting, was it Anthony? Who was quoting the Phantom Menace? I will quote the Phantom Menace now as well, Anthony. We shall watch his career with great interest. That's what we say. Like Palpatine watching Anakin, and that's it. Hassan Haskins, we'll watch his power. Actually, he needs to run with a little bit more pop, my opinion. But anyway, Michigan running back, 4th round. My favorite combination, if you could talk about like chocolate and peanut butter, which I can't eat any of those anymore, Bloom, but like my favorite combination in all of life was Chigo Okonkwo, who's Delaney Walker. He is Delaney Walker. Yeah. Going to the Titans, who got the most from Delaney Walker. So when Chiggy, my man from the Shrine Bowl, went to the Titans, I was just like chef's kiss. Like the rest of the draft, Tennessee, but when you got Chiggy Okonkwo, I was just like, mwah, it's beautiful. It was great. Mind blown, whatever that one meme is. So here we go, Bloom. I'm being chatty with the Tennessee Titans. Kyle Phillips, UCLA wide receiver, 5th. Theo Jackson, safety, Tennessee in the 6th. Chance Campbell, Ole Miss inside linebacker. I just like saying Chance. Anyway, Bloom, let's talk about Tennessee. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's one that Titans fans are going to remember one way or the other, right? And we'll judge this by Burks and Brown's career. Again, the decision with Brown, what did the numbers they were pouncing around? Cecil, like $16 million a year, $18 million. They offered him something.
Just stupid. Like, you're never gonna. He's never gonna be. You're offering him that,
right?
You weren't serious.
They knew he wasn't going to take it. We tried. Well, we tried, but I think they had clarity. Even again, we can't believe these guys. Mike Vrabel, as long as I'm head coach. Well, he's still head coach, and AJ Brown's not there. Burks is nowhere near as skilled as AJ Brown was coming out of Ole Miss. AJ Brown, even though he has an incredible NFL physique, frame, measurables, also was a very skilled receiver. Treylon Burks is raw, very raw, but that doesn't mean he's Deebo Samuel. If you try to use him like Deebo Samuel, you're going to get something more like Laviska Shenault, I think. Okay, so we'll see. We'll see. But obviously, and since we're getting into more analysis of these teams, which we have plenty of time to do this offseason, but how exactly do you keep teams from putting 9 in the box, 12 in the box against Derrick Henry now? What is the threat? Robert Woods coming back from an ACL tear? We'll see. We'll see. This is a team that we thought of in a Super Bowl window making a rebuilding team decision because they don't want to pay A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown has had a lot of knee issues, a lot of injury issues. So may well be that they look very smart for doing this. And even though A.J. Brown was a key part of this offense, it may have been the smart thing to not pay him, but it still leaves them in a position where how are they going to compete? How are they going to compete when this was a team that should have beaten the team that went to the Super Bowl last year? That's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. Right. They move down. They pick up 69, 163. They get McCreary, a combative corner. And the cornerback, how many years in a row has cornerback been a need for the Titans? It's like it's perpetual. So, he can be beat deep, but he's a combative corner who can definitely keep wide receivers wishing they weren't lining up on his side of the field. Petit Frere, a boom bust tackle, but you get him in the 3rd round. Okay, I'll take that. That's a fine pick. They move up a little bit to get Willis. And see, what did we learn? What did we learn in this whole Malik Willis episode? Because he was invited to the draft. With Matt Corral, he was also invited to the draft. We can say party boy, right? With Malik Willis, I think, see, as you've alluded to, it's an unknown. It's a massive unknown. Here's what's known. He's elusive naturally, he's athletic, and he's got incredible natural arm talent. What is unknown is when you ask him to sit down and play the video game of reading NFL defenses and making the right decision, what are you going to get?
Right.
So I think the NFL teams just don't want that unknown, no matter what the upside is. And, we can say this in the vein of someone like Jalen Hurts, because that was also the knock on Jalen Hurts was processing speed, processing what he sees, taking that visual information, turning it into a good decision at a pace that the NFL demands. Jalen Hurts has been okay. I won't be surprised if Malik Willis turns out to be another Jalen Hurts. That's a fine use of a third-round pick. It can keep this team going, but we're getting to the end of the Derrick Henry era, which brings up Hassan Haskins. Okay, similar mentality. I think everybody up in Ann Arbor will remember what he did against Ohio State forever. Jim Harbaugh certainly will.
Right.
Big players in a big game. Okay, does that translate to NFL success? I don't know. I don't know what you really hang your hat on with Haskins as an NFL prospect, except you can feed him and feed him and feed him. But there's a lot of running backs that are on the street right now that probably could handle 300 carries in the NFL and do it in a way that is at least admirable. Okonkwo, this is one of your favorite picks of the draft. I'm with you. I just put thumb up. Big thumb up here. This was a lot of people on their list of favorite prospects. Like you said, going to this team, they need him. Maybe he'll get some use right away. Phillips is interesting. Phillips could be this year's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And what I mean by that is a slot receiver who's highly competent. He's not going to add a lot of value to his catches, but he's a very competent player. Who else is going to catch the ball? Right? Who else are you going to throw to on third? Nick Westbrook-Ikhine? Yeah, we'll see. So file that name away. Kyle Phillips, especially in your deep PPR leagues, best ball leagues, throw a 20th round pick at him. Jackson, then get an athletic project. Is he a cornerback? Is he safety? Campbell is more of a 2-down between the tackles thumper. But this is a big decision, the A.J. Brown decision, and it's going to define this draft. It's going to define this team, even though the funny thing is, if they, Ryan Tannehill, even if Malik Willis makes them competitive, a 7, 8, 9 win team, and they make the right move and A.J. Brown doesn't hold up and he wasn't worth $100 million over 4 years, if they're not competitive, no one's going to care. No one's going to say, great job, John Robinson. The point is they had a Super Bowl window here with this team, the way they were set up, and they really didn't get there's not even a moment that we pondered them going to the Super Bowl in any of these playoff years, and that window is probably closed.
Yes, that window, it goes by quickly, right? Undrafted free agents for the Tennessee Titans are up next. And where's our man, Chris? Where's Chris Harp? I want to see him in the chat room. You know him as Jedi Sith Lord 23. He's my college roommate. And while he was collecting John Elway rookie cards, I was collecting Pat Swilling rookie cards.
Yes,
because I love Pat Swilling. Love the Dome Patrol. Except I don't love Vic Fangio, who was the coach of the Dome Patrol. But either way, Pat Swilling's son, Trey Swilling, is picked up by Tennessee. So, looking for a practice squad spot, sure. But when Trey Swilling, corner at Georgia Tech, and actually one of my highlights of my career, Bloom, is I actually got to interview Pat Swilling a year or so ago. And I was actually nervous, which I've interviewed everybody. I fist bumped LeBron, but like interviewing Pat Swilling, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool because I loved him back in the day. Loved him. Even when he went to the Lions, I still love Pat Swilling. So Trey Swilling, UDFA. I talk more about his dad than I did him, but whatever. There you go.
Yeah,
who's your UDFA for the Titans?
That's fine. I'm down here in New Orleans, baby. We can never get enough Dome Patrol talk. Never. Sam Mills, come on. Hey, how about Jaden Peavy out of Texas A&M? A massive defensive tackle. Let's see what we can do with him. Titans certainly always looking for those nose tackles. And that wraps up the lines going south. We follow them, and we always end up looking west. Looking west, it's always where optimism is. Sees the new beginnings, the frontier.
That's right. And it's never eat sour wheat. We end in the West. But that is a wrap for our AFC South show here on the Audible. We appreciate everyone. If you do those YouTube things before you're out of here, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And, well, hopefully it notifies you. Damn you, YouTube overlords. You follow Sigmund Bloom on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I think my hat was too tight, Bloom. You know, like a mark on my forehead. Just trying to cover up all the wrinkles. Anyway, he's Sigmund at Sigmund Bloom on Twitter. I'm at Cecil Lammey. And the show is at the Audible. We appreciate each and every one of you for watching. Appreciate everyone for listening. Thank you very much. We are the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.